to our Storm here, who, as I talked about last week, they were able to snap their 10-game losing streak. They get back to Climate Pledge Arena here, get back home, and they weren't able to keep their little 2-game winning streak going. They fall to the Dallas Wings 65-76. Our play of the game guard, Jewel Lloyd, 31 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Jewel and Arike Ogunbowale for Dallas battled it all night long. Whenever these two teams play, it's always a tight, physical, intense game. Excuse me. And these two always tend to go at it, as you can see in this photo here by Matthew Bermudez. Seattle struggled on the boards. Dallas is a really good team inside. They've got, you look at the size they have on this roster with Tara McCowan, with Kalani Brown, with Awikoer, and they got Natasha Howard on this roster too, who was a big part of the Storm for a while, if you can remember that. So Seattle has kind of struggled in the paint all season long, whether it be rebounding, points in the paint, second chance points, stuff like that. And they weren't able to overcome those issues against a Dallas team that has started to sort of push up against some of the best teams in this league. So not like it was sort of any pushover. After that loss at home, it was a quick little 1-game return home. The Storm headed back out on the road for one game out on the road before they come back here for a 4-game homestand. August 5th at the Phoenix Mercury, the Storm would win that one 97-91. I played the game guard Jewel Lloyd. Of course, again, how many times will you hear me say that this season? Jewel, 32 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal. A much more complete game in this one, as the Storm were able to go down to Phoenix and beat the Mercury. Now, if you're looking strictly towards the draft lottery, winning games isn't good for Seattle, because with that last win, the Storm actually moved up to now 5th in the Western Conference, above Phoenix. So Phoenix sits at the very bottom of the West in 6th. But now the Storm have the 3rd lowest winning percentage, meaning they have the 3rd best odds for the top pick. So it'll be interesting to see how these remaining 13 games play out for the regular season. Again, I would hope at the beginning of the season that the Storm would be really scrappy and would be able to put together a playoff run this season. I thought there was a lot of unproven talent. It's not the case. I'm going to be wrong. It can't be totally perfect. That would, be unfair to you guys. So, it's just about kind of, again, seeing some of these players improve and grow. And that includes our player of the week, Ezi Magbagor. Ezi, over the past 2 games that the Storm played, 16.5 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists per game, and a half steal and half block per game over those past 2 games. Ezi has really solidified herself as Seattle's 2nd best player behind Jewel Lloyd, and that's not any diss to Ezi. Jewel is on a whole different planet from a lot of players in this league, but Seattle has looked for that second option scoring for most of this season. Hasn't had it. When you looked at last year's team, when Sue really hadn't been much of a scoring threat at that point of her career. When Jewel and Stewie weren't producing much, who was going to show up? And before the team signed Tina Charles, it was largely Ezi Magbagor. So no Tina Charles signing here this season. The Storm have been able to kind of give Ezi free reign and just go out and let her run. And she started, I think, every game, knock on wood, of the season so far and has looked great, whether it's in the paint, whether it's being able to help with scoring. So it's been great to see that, and I'm hoping that her and Jewel Lloyd are able to be pillars of this roster for years to come. So, the injury reports against the Wings and against the Mercury were both clean, so Seattle is at full health. It is interesting to see the way that the roster is shaken out now. Jade Melbourne and Yvonne Turner, both point guards, have not been getting much run as Sammy Whitcomb has taken over that spot. Sammy's played well. I'm just surprised that we haven't seen more from them. In terms of minutes-wise, I know Yvonne Turner's kind of limited with what she can contribute offensively. It's largely her defense. But I don't know, a little interesting to see that Seattle still needs better rebounding, better second chance points, just a better paint presence overall. And we've been talking about this all season long, so it's not like this is a new development, so to say. But But again, largely we're looking at the development of some of these younger players. Jordan Horston has put up some great performances off the bench for Seattle as she continues to get confidence and learn the pro level of this game. So that's what I've largely been taking a look at and trying to hope that the team improves on things like taking care of the basketball, like rebounding, like their general paint presence. And sometimes they do, but they're not able to keep it consistent. So that is a big factor there, hopefully, for the Storm throughout the rest of the regular season. So, oh, shoot, I just had it. Oops. Yeah. So as I mentioned, the winning not so great for the Storm if you'd like for them to get the last pick. The Storm sit at a 7-win, 20-loss record. They are 10th in the entire WNBA, 5th in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, 4-game homestand, as I mentioned. The first 3 games of it will be played this week. Looking ahead, August 8th versus the Connecticut Sun. That's a tough game, considering Connecticut's size. As I mentioned, Connecticut's size is not a thing that Storm have been able to handle. That is a noon game. Yes, you're not confused. August 8th, which is tomorrow, Tuesday, is a noon game. That game will be available to watch on Amazon Prime Video. I don't even have to tell you what the key to that game is. I wouldn't, ideally, but if you need me to help you with it, it is the fact that Seattle needs to be able to do better in the paint against this Connecticut team. Game 2 of that homestand is August 10th versus the Atlanta Dream, a 7 p.m. start. Atlanta has really sort of turned things around. They have the 5th best record in the WNBA this year. They are young, but they've really turned a lot of those things around. Again, as I mentioned, 7 o'clock tip-off time. That will also be on Amazon Prime Video if you are in the state of Washington. And then to close things out against this Mercury team that the Storm just saw, they'll do it at home this time. August 13th versus the Mercury, a 3 p.m. Pacific time start. As I mentioned, again, in the state of Washington, you can watch these games on Amazon Prime Video, all 3 of them. They are on other things like Fox 13 Plus, but I don't want to pay for something like that. I'll just pay for Amazon Prime Video, which I already had. So nothing doing.